Welcome back to the show. Today I've got recruiting news, some player updates, what Tank Bigsby is up to, and why Auburn needs to spend more money. Before we get started, make sure you subscribe to the channel if you've not already done so. Also, make sure you like this video. Let's get right into it. Let's start with some recruiting news. We just got word yesterday that a defensive end from Northwestern, Iku Leota, will be joining the team in the fall. He graduates in the spring and will be joining us in the fall as a graduate transfer. For the 2020 season at Northwestern, Iku was able to record 10 solo tackles, 4 sacks, and 1 forced fumble. While Iku or Andrew was not the highest recruited defensive end when he was recruited, I think he was a 3-star. I think we are going to be glad to get some depth on the team at this position. This is, as far as I know, the first transfer from the transfer portal that Harsin has been able to pick up. Is it the best transfer we could have gotten? Not at all. I do think Brian Harsin missed out on some pretty big chances, but keep in mind he's new to Auburn, and it's going to take some time for him to establish himself in the Southeastern Conference. Next up, we got some news on quarterback Gunnar Stockton. We thought there was about a 50-50 chance he was going to come to Auburn or South Carolina. We felt pretty good, and I say we, including myself and some other content creators, we felt pretty strongly that Gunnar was going to come to Auburn following Mike Bobo. Unfortunately, we found out last week that we were all wrong. As you see, he did not go to Auburn or South Carolina. He ended up getting recruited by Kirby Smart to go to Georgia. I've seen a lot of people kind of play this down, but I do think this was a big miss for Brian Harsin and Mike Bobo, and we really should have picked him up. I hate we did not. And you can play this down as much as you want to, but this was a huge miss for Auburn. Next, we got some pretty big news Sunday night about a new commit to Auburn. Colby Smith, who's an offensive tackle, committed Sunday night to Auburn and Brian Harsin. So I think this is a big pickup for our team, for Auburn, and I think this is only going to help us out next season. This is a pretty big guy at 6'7", 315 pounds. So he's a huge dude, and I think he's going to help us out up front for sure at the start of this next season. As you can see, this is the tweet that Colby Smith put out. He put out this image that says committed with the big AU behind him. Welcome to the team, Colby Smith. Finally, we also got news that defensive back Trayvon Leonard will be joining the team again for this upcoming season. He chose to sit out the 2020 season using that COVID waiver. Welcome back to the team, Trayvon Leonard. And finally, if you've been wondering what Tank Bigsby's been up to since the season ended, take a look at this video that was put out recently by Brad Lester. He is putting in the work. I fully expect, Tank is going to have just a monster season next year. I really can't wait to see what he does. Look at this guy. He's putting in the work in the offseason, hitting the weights, hitting the agility drills, getting this training from Brad at his elite training camp. I think he is just going to be an absolute monster next year. My final story has to do with recruiting spending and the differences in how much Auburn is spending versus Alabama. So I want to take a look at this tweet from Josh Vitale. If you look, he said, originally he said football recruiting expenses. Auburn in 2018-19 spent about $955,000. In 1920, they spent about $648,000. Compare that to Alabama and what they spent. In the 18-19 season, Alabama spent $2.6 million. That is almost a $1.6 million difference. And then in the 1920 season, they spent $2.1 million. That is once again, was that $1.5 million difference? Alabama is just completely outspending Auburn in the recruiting front, and this is something that absolutely needs to be fixed. He then actually made an addendum to his original tweet, and it says, "Okay, forgive me, but I was using the wrong report for Alabama. Alabama spent more than $2.6 million in the 18-19 season, and in 1920 the number was 2.1 million. So that all looks the same to me. Regardless, the lesson to learn here is that Alabama is completely outspending Auburn in the recruiting game, and this is something that Brian Harsin, Alan Green, and everyone that has any kind of power over the money at Auburn needs to step it up. Step up the spending. There's obviously a reason it's working. Is spending money the whole story? Absolutely not. But we can't let a team in our own state outspend us on recruiting by this much. So this is something that immediately can be fixed and should be fixed. And I'm hoping that we'll close that gap, not completely meet them, but at least kind of close that gap with our upcoming spending for recruiting for the next season. That's all I've got for this episode. Thank you again for watching. If you like this video, please consider leaving a like and subscribing to the channel if you've not already done so. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one.